Alright, so I was asked to show how a TZone works. Alright, so let's see here. So I'm basically going to show y'all a couple of interesting little Pippi tools and generally how you can get them to work for different purposes. This is a TZone. Then here, this X, Y, and Z, generally X is width. You can just change that to a 2 and then hit apply a couple of times. Alright, so this is width, then this is length, and then this right here would be your height. And then apply and voila, you have like a 2 by 2 by 2 square. Click on it. You hold E on it, you can adjust it or move it around and whatnot once you have it in a good spot that you want to put it. You can use it on doorways, you can use it in areas. Like I've got a great big winter wonderland here built and it's got a giant T-zone around it, so that when people enter said T-zone, they can do all kinds of interesting things. But I'll show you some of that in a minute. So you can do all kinds of things. You can change when players enter. This happens. When players leave, this happens. You can also make it so that, say for instance, when a player enters, you click on Add T Perform, and then you expand it. Add an action, add a condition. You can have multiple conditions. You can have multiple actions for different things. Alright, so for this experience, we're just going to do one. So for this one, and you can label it. The label for that doesn't do anything. Um, so like if I was to say set up an area for a bartender to make more money based on patrons when they enter or exit the T-zone, you could title the first one bartender and bartend, you know. And then you would select the zone for that T-zone. So this is this T-zone because it's the only one without a name right now. All the other ones have a name. So, or most of them. Just make sure that T-zone is the same as the bottom T-zone. And players inside, you could also do entering players, leaving players. Generally, I go with players inside. Charvar operation, charvar check. Charvar check is if you have a character variable for that character for the T-zone that they're occupying, the charvar check would be the bottom one. And then if they have this bottom charvar here, let's call this bartender. Say for instance, if they have bartender 1 and they have a 1 in bartender, so they have a charvar of 1 based on a quest that you got from a thespian, then go bartender, here, set it at 0. Say for instance, if I was, oh, that's kind of screwy. Oh, let's go bartender 2. So everybody that enters this T-zone that has the charvar of the character variable of 1 would get a charvar or character variable of 2 once they come. Everybody that's in there, that's in this T-zone, would get that charvar of 2. Or you could even set it as player entering or player leaving. Now you notice that I didn't save it and I didn't apply it. So if you click it again, it's gone. This is very important because once you set up your actions and your performs, your actions and your conditions, once you have those set, you want to make sure you click save a couple of times. Because sometimes just once it won't actually take. That way when you close it and you go to open it again, it's still there. I usually use the bartender things for positions for people get stuff or whatnot while they're in there. But the leave is very important. So say for instance somebody, let's say, leave bartend. Let's say for instance the character that's inside this T-zone has the bartender position, right? They got it from the counter when they took the position for the quest. but they're like, I really don't want to do this anymore, so they leave. So leaving player as bartender 1, you can say greater than 1. So the character that's in this T-zone has taken a quest for bartending. While they're there, they don't feel like they need to stay there for the entire time. Figure they can go off and do something else for the duration of the quest and then come back and get paid. Well, with this T-zone set up, and they have bartender 1 or bartender greater than 1 value for their character variable, you can do this. You can get bartender 1. You can set that operation as 0. So as soon as they leave that T-zone, it zeroes them out. So when they try to come back and get paid for that position, yeah, sorry, come back tomorrow. You left. And then you save it and apply it. Now if you go back to the event, it's still there. That's a simple setup. Players entering this area, um, yeah, and you can remove it just by that and then saving it. You could do the same thing for players entering an area. If you wanted to give them a character variable increase, you could do that way as well. Fortunately, I can't really move this, and my screen, for whatever reason, let me just move this over here. There we go. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now you can see what I see. All right, so there's the player enters, the player leaves. It also gives you, this happens, this player leaves the T-zone. This happens to players when they enter the T-zone. Now, that being said, say for instance you have a large area, right? You can increase cap events. These are called player cap events. You can increase the count. This is how very many players are inside the zone, and so on and so forth. If we increase it, if a player, say you have one player already in the T zone, and it increased by 1. So say a second player comes into the T zone, now it's increased to 2. You could make events for those. Um, like say for instance, if we're still taking into account the bartender position, go T-zone, T-zone, players inside, character variable, we're going to go with bartender, set 1, let's set that to 2, bartender 1, 1, going to equal that to, alright, so say for instance, players inside the zone, um, the cap increased to 1. So the character that's already in the zone, actually the cap would increase to 2, because if you're already in the zone, it should already register as there's one player in the zone. So the cap would have increased to 2. Then the person that was already in the zone that had bartender 1 now gets their char bar set to 2. Likewise, you can increase that by adding more T performs, but not on this one because this is just solely for the cap event for that too. If that makes any sense, it gets very. So the second one you want to set it. You can also additionalize it or subtract it. If you additional it, you can increase it by 1 each time. So every time it comes in, it goes up by 1. And then you save, close. And then, so that one increased to 2, and then this one would increase it to 3, and then you would do it again. Likewise, you would add if, say for instance, that one player left, you could decrease it. So now, let's take this one out. So, say for instance, this caps, one person's in there, they have bartender 1. Another person comes in, it increased by 1 person. Now there's 2 people in the cap zone. Likewise, the bartender position character variable increased on the person that has bartender 1 to 2. So now they have bartender 2. In a sense, you could actually give that person that has the quest for bartending more money because now they've brought additional players into the zone to RP with. Now, say for instance that other person gets tired of their RP, has their drink and whatnot, before the person's quest timer is up to get paid for it, leaves the zone, you can go in here, and because it's now decreased down to one person, and you can add an action for that T-zone, because that person left, players inside, decreased one, now you go bartender 1, you can now subtract 1 point. Players inside have the character variable of bartending, bartender 1 equals 2. So we increased from bartender 1 character variable to 1. You don't want to take away from them because they're still in there working. You want to take 1 point off, so now they go from 2 to 1, so that if anybody else comes back into the zone, now their character variable can increase. It's a little tedious from times, but then you apply it a couple of times right there, and then close this, and the thing should work. So you can increase this as many times as you want to based on however many characters you want to put in there. I usually don't go more than 10, but you know, slow servers and whatnot. So this is just an easy area adjustment and whatnot else. Now you can do other things with the T-zone, which gets kind of interesting. You can have it activate quests. A player walks into the area. When the player enters, you can trigger quests to go off. Like you can trigger spawners to spawn. You can trigger notifications to pop up, global and whatnot with this T-zone. So say for instance a player enters the T-zone, and this goes out to, so, and it could check for a range of things. Does they have the quest? Are they in this clan? Do they have a certain rank? Do they have a certain attribute? Do they have a certain character variable? Do they have a certain level? Do they have items? If they have this, then this will go off. Or you could just take away the condition altogether, so that, let's just save this and close, and then we can players enter. So now you don't even have a condition. So now entering player would get something. You can modify their health, modify their corruption. If they're going into, say, like a dungeon, you could give them a kit. Say they spawn fresh into the world, as soon as they populate into that zone, poof, they get a kit. You could give them money. You could teleport them. As soon as they walk into that area, poof, they could be teleported somewhere else. They get a pop-up notification. I do this if, say, I did a server where people could get kingdoms. By the way, if your T-zone is 500 by 500 by 500, that is literally one grid on the map on the Exiled Lands. So if you put this T-zone in the very middle and you give it 500 by 500 by 500, you just covered an entire grid. I did that when people had kingdoms on a server that I ran in the past. So as soon as somebody walked into that zone, a pop-up would come up saying, "Hi, you've entered so-and-so's lands. Look for Discord for the rules and shit." You could knock the player out. You could literally kill the player as soon as they walk into the T-zone if they're in somewhere they're not supposed to be. Set quest flag. You could give them the quest so that when they talk to the NPCs in the area, say has quest flag, that means that they have been to that area. Rank configs, set gravity. You can literally make people, as soon as they walk into your T-zone, fly. But then you make sure that you set them when they come out the other side, i.e. leaving the area, that you reset their gravity so that they plummet to their death. Friction, set speed. You can increase their speed. You can give them a speed boost when they come into the area. There's a whole bunch of different stuff here. It's pretty good. Like, that being said, this T-zone right here, because this is a Winter Wonderland, I increased the, I decreased the friction. By the way, to allow people to slide, you make the friction negative. Like this is a -5 friction. Literally, I'm not moving. It's hard as hell to stop. But welcome to my Winter Wonderland. Literally skating around the ring. This is set up for friction. And this is a... Oh, yeah, that was a trap. And as soon as they enter, or they exit, the friction is taken off because I've got it set up for when the player leaves. Their friction gets reset. It's fun. Interesting. It's simple. This is how a TZone works. Alright, so show visual area. Generally, the person that puts it down is the only one that can actually see the box. You can use specific permissions for players that are inside. All that is set up through settings, I believe. You can allow whitelisted names only that interact with this thing right here. You can override the name. You can call it something else, and so that you can make it so that everybody can see this tool. And if everybody can see this tool, everybody can see the green box. Everybody can see the green box. Everybody can see the name. Um, Generally, I just owner only or clan only. Make sure you hit apply a couple of times, and now only you can see it. You give this tool a name. That's very good for like if you're doing a quest, you're setting it up through a thespian. You give this thing a name, and then easily find it or write it into your triggers. So like this is test box. Uh, don't hit enter or all that does is just make so this becomes test box. Overriding the name will actually override the name of the TZone. It won't say TZone anymore. Whitelist, you can give the whitelist like if you wanted to say um, only people with like certain ranks can use this. So you put use and add rank. And this rank right here, you would basically give whatever through the Pippi settings. So like vampires, werewolves are only allowed to open a door in a certain area. Um, or admins or whatnot, or if you set up through the Pippi ranks the different ranks, what your name is, admin and werewolves and whatever else. So if you wanted to make it so that people that were admins could only use this T box and this T zone, and this T zone operated in egress, you could legit um, or a door. You could make this T zone open and close that door when you walked in or exited this T zone. So that would allow everybody that has that rank the ability to open that door, and only the people with that rank would be able to open and close that door. Um, yeah, that's useful. Say, for instance, if I had a vanilla door, right? So I wanted to open and close this door. So I put my T zone there, right? Oh. Alright, so you get T control. This is generally for your vanilla stuff. So I want to add a new thing. So let's say I want to add that one. And I want to add this one. So right now, nothing's happening. Then when I go into here, and I want to say when a player enters this area, this happens. Alright, so let's go test box. When a player enters this test box, they will... let's do this. Decontrol. Alright, so when a player enters this text, this box, door control will open normally. And say for instance, you wanted to, yeah, the condition, nope. Because we've got this set up for if a whitelisted player with the rank of admin walks into, can only use this app, so can only use this T-zone. So that's set up so this box right here will only work if an admin is walking into this box. I apply, and I go back to config, and that enters. So if we did this, so let's we're gonna remove this one. We're gonna add one. Put this in here. Action. This is of a player. Go back to T control, and this is door closed. Now it's set up so that if an admin walks into this test box, this T zone. If an admin walks into this T zone, this door will open. When the admin leaves this test box, the door will close. Now, egresses can be configured separately, but and when you pick it up and put it down, it clears it off of the T controller. So basically, if I walk in here, door opens. When I walk out, door closes. But this is how you can do all kinds of things. You can set it up so that T plates will work with the TZone, and sequencers will work with the TZone. Sequencers are fun little devices. You can do all kinds of stuff. I like messing with glorbs with them. You can set them up so that people inside the areas will trigger events to happen, spawners to spawn. You can trigger them so that if you walk into an area and you have certain triggers set up so that like loot spawners will spawn as long as people are in that T zone. You can increase the cap point, so if like 5 people are in this zone, then the spawn boxes will actually populate with stuff. The loot boxes will spawn with stuff as long as there's 5 or more people in there. But as soon as one person leaves, suddenly there's nothing in the loot boxes anymore. Here's a good example of the sequencer. I've got glorbs down for this little Christmas holiday event thing here on this server. All of these, I have 8 glorbs in total, and they're all flickering off with the Christmas wonderful things of life. All because I have them set up on a sequencer at 0.1 seconds. And all they do is they change from green to red and green to red. There's 8 glorbs in here, and I had them all set up in here like this. Now, I mean, you could do it with like, you could put 20 glorbs down and make them change all kinds of different colors. As long as you put more than one color on one thing, then sequentially wise, they'll change. Yeah, I love Pippi Tools sometimes. But yeah, that's generally a T-zone and the little things that go along with it. So, thank y'all for coming out. And